The streets of Santo Domingo were alive with rhythm and color. The steady hum of motorbikes blended with the upbeat pulse of merengue playing from open windows. Children ran barefoot through the alleyways, their laughter echoing through sun-drenched courtyards. Women fanned themselves in doorways while calling out greetings to neighbors. The scent of fried plantains, simmering beans, and charcoal-grilled chicken floated through the humid air. In the middle of the bustle, a small family stood outside a modest cement house painted seafoam green. 8-year-old Julian clung tightly to his mother's side, one arm gripping the strap of his little red backpack, the other wrapped around her waist. His eyes, wide with uncertainty, scanned the streets he'd known his entire life, the only world he'd ever understood, a world that now felt like it was slipping away. Inside the house, his abuela, Mama Flor, was pacing the tiled floor barefoot, a rosary wrapped tightly around her fingers. Her silver-grey bun was coming undone, and her eyes were red and swollen. She had raised Julian since he was a toddler, after Rosa left to seek work in the United States. They were inseparable, Julian and Mama Flor, and the boy had always called her Mama out of instinct. To him, she was home. «Ven aquí, mi niño», Mama Flor susurró extendiendo sus brazos. Julian let go of his mother and ran into them, burying his face in her skirt. She hugged him so tightly he could barely breathe. «Tú vas a estar bien allá», she said softly, rocking him gently. «Con tu mamá. Ella ha luchado mucho para esto. Te va a cuidar como yo lo he hecho». Julian nodded but didn't speak. Tears slid down his cheeks as he listened to her heart beating against his ear. Rosa stood nearby, her own face crumbling as she watched them. For years, she had worked long shifts cleaning offices and caring for other people's children so she could send money home. Money that paid for Julian's food, his clothes, and eventually, his visa. Now the visa was approved, her green card was renewed. It was finally time. She could finally bring her son home, but that meant tearing him away from the only family he truly remembered. «Es hora, mi amor», Rosa dijo suavemente, arrodillándose junto a ellos. «Tenemos que irnos. El vuelo sale pronto». Mama Flor held Julian's face in her hands, memorizing every detail. «Nunca olvides de dónde vienes. Nunca te olvides de mí. Pero no mires atrás. ¿Me entiendes? Tu futuro está por delante». Julian nodded again, this time with trembling lips. He didn't know what waited for him in that faraway country called America, but he knew he had to go, because his mother was going, and because they were finally going to be together. The taxi pulled up, and Rosa lifted his small suitcase into the trunk. Mama Flor pressed a small wooden crucifix into Julian's palm. «Para que Dios siempre te proteja», she whispered. As the car pulled away, Julian pressed his face against the window. He watched Mama Flor shrink in the distance, waving with both hands, her shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. The streets of Santo Domingo blurred behind his tears, and the sounds of merengue faded into the wind. The sliding doors of JFK Airport whooshed open, and Julian stepped into a world he had only seen in old TV reruns and the glossy pages of magazines passed around his school in Santo Domingo. The chill slapped him in the face first, sharp, dry, and biting, nothing like the thick Caribbean air he was used to. He shivered beneath the oversized coat his cousin had lent him, the fabric stiff and smelling faintly of mothballs and detergent. The city roared around him, taxi horns blaring, people shouting in accents he couldn't quite place, luggage wheels scraping across concrete. Skyscrapers stabbed the sky, casting long shadows that made the ground feel smaller, colder. Julian's eyes darted upward in awe. «Mami, los edificios tocan el cielo», he whispered, his voice muffled by the scarf wrapped around his mouth. His mother, Rosa, tightened her grip on his hand, offering a tired smile. «Sí, mi amor. Pero no te dejes marear por lo alto. Mira siempre por donde caminas». Julian didn't hear the warning in her tone. His heart was beating too fast. This was it. America. The land of movie stars, rappers, and millionaires. He imagined himself in a crisp basketball jersey, riding a subway to an art school in Manhattan. He'd become a graphic designer, maybe even an animator for video games, or maybe a famous YouTuber. He'd send money back home, make Mama Flor proud. He could see it now, a better life, one he would build from the ground up. But Rosa's eyes told another story. She'd seen too many young boys from their neighborhood swept up in the glitter of American culture only to forget where they came from. She feared her son might one day stop speaking Spanish, stop calling his grandmother, maybe even feel ashamed of his roots. She had fought too hard, cleaning houses, sleeping in basements, skipping meals, to see Julian lose the essence of who he was. That night, back in the tiny apartment in the Bronx she shared with 2 other women, Rosa made him a plate of arroz con habichuelas and fried salami, just like Mama Flor used to. Julian sat on a thin mattress in the corner of the room, surrounded by walls covered in faded wallpaper and the hum of the heater clicking on and off. Esto no es como me lo imaginé, he muttered, fidgeting with his fork. Pensé que íbamos a tener una casa grande, con una tele como la de tío Rafael. Rosa sighed, pulling a blanket over his legs. Todo llega a su tiempo. Aquí trabajamos mucho, pero vale la pena. Lo importante es que estés aquí, conmigo, juntos. Julian looked at his mother, her cracked hands, the deep lines around her eyes, and for the first time, he saw how much she had given up to bring him here. ¿Y si nunca me acostumbro? He asked. She reached over and placed her hand on his heart. Entonces, no te olvides de lo que llevas aquí. Eso es lo que te va a guiar. As the city buzzed quietly outside, Julian lay back, his dreams of greatness tangled with the scent of home-cooked food, the warmth of his mother's voice, and the weight of everything he was about to learn. By the time Julian turned 13, the bitter chill of New York winters no longer made him flinch. He had learned how to layer, hoodie under a puffy jacket, hat pulled low, and gloves his mom bought from a street vendor in Washington Heights. The city, once so intimidating, now pulsed with opportunity and routine. At school, Julian found his rhythm, though the English came slowly at first, all slurred syllables and swallowed vowels. He caught on quicker than most. He started translating for his mother at the grocery store, and even helped neighbors fill out forms and letters they didn't understand. More than that, Julian found friends. There was Malik, whose parents were from Ghana, and who rapped during lunch with a voice too deep for a 14-year-old. Then there was Jenny from Queens, who was obsessed with art like Julian and always doodled in the margins of her notebook. Together they shared takis, played soccer after school, and posted goofy dance videos on TikTok. For the first time since he left Santo Domingo, Julian felt like he belonged. I'm going to be big, he told Malik one afternoon while waiting for the bus. Not just rich big, but like respected big. Maybe open my own studio one day. Animation, comics, something dope. Malik nodded, bumping fists. Yeah, I see that for you, bro. But back home, things were different. Rosa, his mother, had picked up another cleaning job. She barely slept anymore. Up at 5 a.m. to take the subway to Manhattan, back by 9 p.m., smelling of bleach and lavender floor polish. She kept a ledger in a drawer by her bed, scrawled with bills, Con Ed, rent, MetroCard, groceries, Julian's school supplies, always more bills than checks. She tried to keep her worries hidden, humming softly as she cooked, keeping her voice light when Julian asked about money. But late at night, he sometimes saw her in the kitchen with her head in her hands, the flickering stove light bouncing off tear-streaked cheeks. That's when Julian decided to help. He got his working papers the second he turned 16 and picked up a job after school bagging groceries at the corner bodega. On weekends, he mopped floors at a local barbershop and sometimes helped fix old computers for neighbors. He saved every dollar, tucking a few into a coffee can under his bed and slipping the rest into Rosa's purse when she wasn't looking. ¿Qué es esto? She asked one morning, holding the cash with trembling fingers. Julian shrugged, already grabbing his backpack. Just a little something for light or rice. Or maybe that blender you said was broken. Rosa stood in the doorway as he left, heart heavy with pride and guilt. She wanted him to dream, to create, to fly, not to carry weight that wasn't his. But she also knew. This was the reality they lived. This was the price of starting over. Still, in the quiet moments, when Julian was laughing over homework with his friends or sketching superheroes in the corner of his notebooks, she believed that maybe, just maybe, everything she sacrificed had been worth it. The wind cut through his hoodie as Julian ducked into the corner convenience store with a few of his friends. They weren't bad kids, just bored, hungry, and broke. Julian's stomach growled. He hadn't eaten all day, saving his lunch money to help cover the gas bill. His eyes darted to a row of candy bars. His friends were already laughing, pocketing snacks with a confidence he didn't have. He hesitated, heart pounding. "Come on, bro," Malik whispered, already sliding out the door. "It's nothing. They don't even check." Julian reached for a Snickers, slipped it into his coat pocket. He almost made it out. The bell above the door chimed, just as a stern voice boomed behind him. "Hey, you, stop right there!" The next few minutes blurred into chaos, the clerk yelling, sirens, a police car. Julian was handcuffed on the snowy sidewalk, face hot with shame. It was just a candy bar, $1.29. He was booked, fingerprinted, and held for hours. A public defender got the charge reduced to a juvenile misdemeanor. He was released, told it wouldn't follow him. It was nothing serious. But that charge did follow him, like a shadow, waiting. Julian had just returned home from work, covered in drywall dust and sweat. His mom was cooking arroz con pollo. The house was warm, filled with laughter and the hum of the TV. Then, a knock at the door. 3 loud, deliberate pounds. Rosa wiped her hands, confused. Julian froze. Something in his stomach sank. He opened the door. 2 agents, no smiles, no warmth, just badges and questions. "Are you Julian de la Cruz?" "Yes, what's this about?" "We have a detainer. You need to come with us." "What? I'm a permanent resident. I have my green card." "There's a discrepancy in your file. You have a criminal charge. You'll have to answer for it." Julian's mom screamed, grabbing his arm. No, he's legal. He has papers. That was years ago." But it didn't matter. They handcuffed him on his own porch, in front of neighbors, in front of his little cousin who had been coloring on the living room floor. Rosa begged, wept, fell to her knees. Julian looked back at her through the ice van window, lips trembling, heart breaking. He was taken to a detention center upstate. Cold, isolated. A place that smelled like bleach and steel, locked up for 20 hours a day. No fresh air, no phone calls for the first 48 hours. Julian sat in that cell, whispering to the walls, "This has to be a mistake." Days turned into weeks. He filed grievance after grievance, called the number they gave him, waited for updates. The system moved like molasses, deaf to his pleas. His green card, real. His life, American. But none of that seemed to matter. They told him the shoplifting charge triggered a flag in the system, that somewhere some bureaucrat had misclassified it, that his file had been reopened. They treated him like he was dangerous, like he didn't belong. Julian once said, "They looked at me like I was a number, like I didn't matter, like all I'd done, graduating, working, helping my mom, meant nothing. One mistake. One. And they decided that was enough to erase everything." The cell was barely wide enough for a bed and a toilet. The walls were pale, lifeless grey, not a single window in sight. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, dim, never off. Even sleep felt artificial. Julian lay on the stiff cot, eyes fixed on the ceiling. The air smelled of bleach and metal. The only sounds were distant coughs, the occasional yell, and the ever-present jangle of keys clipped to a guard's hip. 20 hours a day, locked in. 1 hour for rec. 1 hour to remember he was human. The recreation yard was just concrete surrounded by fencing, like a cage at a kennel. The sky, if you could see it, always looked distant, cold, mocking. Julian shuffled in slow circles during his hour, arms crossed tight. The other detainees didn't talk much. No one had energy for it. They walked in silence, each one lost in their own kind of purgatory. Inside, he counted tiles, memorized cracks in the wall. He stopped checking the calendar. The days bled together. Monday felt like Thursday felt like forever. Scene. The guard's pressure. Guards came to his door sometimes, leaned against the bars like it was just another day at work. "Hey man, why are you still here? You know they don't care about your papers. You want to go home? Just sign the deportation." Julian didn't answer. "It's easy, you'll be out by Friday. DR ain't that bad. Sun, beaches, food. What you even waiting for?" He turned to the wall, but their words slithered into his thoughts at night, when sleep wouldn't come, when all he could think about was his mother crying on the porch the night they took him. Scene visitation room. Julian sat in the freezing metal chair. His orange jumpsuit hung loose on his frame now. He'd lost weight. Hope. Then she walked in. Black coat, manila folder clutched to her chest. Her eyes met his and softened immediately. "Julian?" He nodded. "I'm Amanda. I'm with the New York Immigrant Family Unity Project. I'm your attorney now." He almost didn't believe it. She opened the folder. Pages of his life spread out in front of her. Birth certificate, school records, green card copies, arrest paperwork. "I read your case. That shoplifting charge should have never triggered this. You've been a legal resident since you were a child. What they're doing, it's wrong." Julian looked down, mumbled, "None of it matters. I'm still here." Amanda leaned in. "That's what they want you to believe, but you have a strong case. I'm going to fight this, and I'm going to win." 2 weeks later. Julian, voice shaky. "I'm thinking about signing. I can't take it anymore. I just want to go. I'll figure it out in DR. I got nobody there, but maybe I can start over." Amanda, firm, gentle. "Julian, please don't sign. Please, they're waiting for you to break, but we're building your case. I've contacted your school, your job, your family. I even got a letter from your pastor. You are not alone in this." Julian, "I just feel like I don't exist here, like I disappeared." Amanda, "You exist, and you matter, and I'm not letting them erase you. You didn't come this far to be pushed out because of a piece of paper and one mistake you made as a kid." She visited every week. She brought updates, letters from his family, even jokes to make him smile. And when he was at his lowest, her voice was the only one that reached him through the fog of hopelessness. Julian once said, "I swear if it wasn't for her, I would have signed. I would have given up everything. The system is made to make you feel like you don't belong, like there's no way out." But Amanda, she made me believe again. She reminded me that I still had a life waiting on the other side of those bars. The day of the ruling felt like the edge of a dream. Julian had waited months in a cage, his spirit fraying with every passing hour, and finally, there was a glimmer of justice. Julian stood in shackles, dressed in a loose khaki jumpsuit. His wrists itched under the handcuffs. The courtroom was stark, cold. No jury, no warmth, just a judge on a raised bench, a government prosecutor to his left, and Amanda beside him, standing tall and composed in her black blazer. The government lawyer recited charges, citing the petty theft from years ago, a shoplifting charge from his teenage years, a mistake he'd paid for with community service and sealed records. But Amanda was ready. She approached the bench calmly, her voice clear and unwavering. Amanda Bernardo. "Your Honor, under the Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 237A2A2A2, my client's offense does not meet the criteria of deportability. It was a single petty offense, non-violent, committed when he was a juvenile." She placed papers before the judge. "Julian is a legal permanent resident. He's lived here since he was 8 years old. His family is here. He graduated high school. He's worked, paid taxes, stayed out of trouble ever since. What ICE is doing is not just unjust, it's unlawful." She cited case law, matter of Garcia Hernandez, where the BIA ruled that minor offenses, particularly juvenile infractions, cannot automatically strip someone of their status without due cause. Then she dropped the anchor. Under the New York Youthful Offender Statute, CPL Section 720.35, Julian's conviction is not a conviction for immigration purposes. It is sealed. The court must treat it as a non-conviction. The judge reviewed the file silently, flipping pages, tapping a pen against the desk. Then, at last, he looked up. Immigration judge. This court finds that Mr. Fernandez is not removable under the law. The proceedings are terminated. He is to be released immediately. Julian's knees buckled slightly. His hands trembled. Amanda squeezed his shoulder gently, the hint of a smile tugging at her lips. He couldn't stop the tears. He tried, bit his lip, looked up. But they came anyway. Julian hadn't cried since he got locked up, but hearing that, it was like being pulled up from underwater, like he could finally breathe again. But the victory was short-lived. ICE didn't open the door. They didn't move. Days passed, then weeks. The cell that should have been empty still held Julian, and he began to break all over again. Julian paces his cell, more frantic now. The walls feel closer. His bunkmate is gone, released days ago, but not him. A guard shrugs. Still waiting on the paperwork, man. Julian slams his fist against the metal sink. Amanda is on her third cup of coffee, phone pressed to her ear, her desk cluttered with legal briefs and Julian's file. Amanda, I'm sorry, but your office is holding a man whose deportation case was terminated. The judge issued a signed order. There is no legal basis to detain him any longer. The ICE agent on the other end offers a bland response. The order isn't final yet. We're reviewing whether to appeal. Amanda's voice sharpens. There is nothing to appeal. And even if there were, you cannot use hypothetical appeals as a pretext for indefinite detention. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment and the Supreme Court ruling in Zadvidas v. Davis. You are unlawfully detaining my client. Still no action. She wrote letters to the field office director, filed a habeas petition, called contacts in advocacy circles, anything to turn the heat up. It wasn't until Amanda escalated to the chief counsel of the local ICE district that something finally shifted. She presented everything: Julian's legal status, the judge's decision, the sealed conviction, and ICE's baseless delay. Amanda, stern. He's not a criminal, he's a lawful resident. Your agency is violating federal law by keeping him, and if you don't act, we will go public. I have media on standby. Within 48 hours, Julian was told to pack his things. No cameras, no parade. Just a cold morning and a door that opened for the first time in months. Julian stepped out into the wind, blinking at the sky like it was too bright. Amanda was waiting with his mother and sister in the car. Rosa ran to him, sobbing, grabbing his face like she couldn't believe it was real. Rosa, in Spanish. Mi hijo, estás libre, gracias a Dios. Julian hugged her tight. His eyes still glistened. Julian, voiceover. It wasn't just about getting out. It was about being seen, like I mattered again. Amanda saved my life. She